Shavua Tov, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, a restful weekend. I missed you guys. I always miss you over the weekend because we have like a community, a family thing going here. So when I don't speak to you, I really, really miss you. If this is your first time visiting, I'm Rolene Marks. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you as always by Lay of the Land, where we bring you those top stories making headlines in Israel. Some of them that you won't see in the mainstream media, and we do it every Monday to Thursday. As you all know, Israel is engaged in a war with Hamas, and today is day 185. That is day 185 of what is soon to be the longest war that Israel has fought. There are some people that believe that this is Israel's second war for independence. What we try and impress upon the world is that not only are we the front line for the West, for all freedom-loving people who like and revere Judeo-Christian values and freedoms, but we are also fighting a massive existential threat and threat to our country as the nation state of the Jewish people. So let's get on with those top stories, and we begin with news that yesterday marked exactly 6 months to the day since the atrocities of the 7th of October. You know, that day is ingrained in my memory, and I think always will be. It always takes me back to that Saturday morning when at 6:30 in the morning, my phone buzzed as it does when there are rocket alerts, and it just didn't stop. It kept going and going and going and going, and I knew that something big was happening. And I remember saying to my husband that either there is something going on or the app is malfunctioning. And throughout the day, we saw the hundreds and thousands of rockets being fired at us, and we would see the news as it broke of the infiltrations into our southern communities, the bases that were captured, the wholesale slaughter, death, destruction, and barbarism. Israelis are still very, very deep in our trauma, our shock. We haven't even begun to move into the healing or the PTSD phase. Yesterday, there were events all over the country to commemorate 6 months. And let's have a look at 6 months in numbers. To date, there are 133 hostages still being held in the Gaza Strip. We received over the weekend the devastating news that Elad Katzir, 47 years old from Kibbutz Nir Oz, his body was recovered in a grave in Khan Yunis by our troops and brought back to Israel for burial. So right now there are 133 hostages that remain in the Gaza Strip. 97, as far as we know, are still alive, and 36 bodies are being held captive by Hamas. And they are not just Israelis. There are American nationals, a Tanzanian national, Nepalese nationals from countries all over the world, including maybe your own. 600 soldiers have fallen since the 7th of October. We include the 7th of October and those that have fallen in Israel's defensive war against Hamas. And thousands of rockets have been fired towards Israel, both from Gaza, many of them falling short in the Gaza Strip, killing Gazan civilians, and over 3,000 that we know of from Hezbollah into the north part of the country. Yesterday, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres tweeted out that it is a day of pain for Israelis and that nothing justifies the attacks of the 7th of October. This is a change from what he said a couple of months ago, where he said it did not happen in a vacuum. No, it didn't, Mr. Secretary General. Decades of incitement of hatred propagated by some of your very agencies like the UN Human Rights Council and UNRWA have led to this climate and this culture of hate against the Jewish state. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also remembered the 7th of October atrocity, saying that Israelis are largely unhealed. I wish he would have a word with his Foreign Secretary David Cameron, who said that Britain's support for Israel will be contingent on Israel observing international law, which we absolutely do. He also said in a tweet that Britain would support the hostages. We are sure you meant the immediate and unconditional release of the hostages, didn't you, Foreign Secretary? And around the country, there were rallies, many on Saturday night, taking to the streets to rally in protest of the government, saying that they need to do more to ensure the release of our hostages. Last week, we spoke about the horrific and tragic accident that saw 7 aid workers from World Central Kitchen killed in an airstrike. Now, I don't want to make light of the incident. There's no making light. It was a horrific, horrific tragedy. And I don't want to be glib and say these things happen in war. But I do want to address the hypocrisy of allies and really countries around the world. Countries like Australia, who have said that Israel's investigation is not enough, it's not transparent enough. We will be giving more and more information about that investigation to our allies. And the round castigation and disgust from allies like the United Kingdom and the United States. And I think we all can remember many incidents of friendly fire committed by US troops in Afghanistan, British troops in Bosnia, and many, including myself, are asking the question, how come when those countries have horrific tragedies in war, blue on blue, it's a mistake, but when Israel has a mistake, it is a war crime? To me, and maybe I'm the only one, it seems like a glaring double standard and hypocrisy. The IDF's chief spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, who I really feel is part of the family, gave a press conference on a Friday night. He said that preliminary investigations had concluded. What they found was a terrible chain of events, mistaken identification. They thought that Hamas terrorists who had been spotted close to the convoy were still inside the convoy, and it was an operation contrary to the operational procedures and the chain of command. 2 high-ranking IDF officers have been dismissed and others have been reprimanded. The foreign minister has spoken to his counterparts in the countries that did lose nationals in that accident. But it really has left a very uncomfortable feeling for Israelis that there is a horrific double standard. Yesterday, the IDF announced that they would be pulling troops from the southern part of the Gaza Strip, except for one Nahal Brigade. The job now of the Nahal Brigade will be to secure a corridor from the south to the north of the Gaza Strip called the Netzarim Corridor. The White House's John Kirby said that he believes the IDF pulling troops from the south of the Gaza Strip means that troops are going for a little bit of a rest and to re-strengthen positions, re-strengthen their weapons or reposition their weapons. What we do believe, because I know there was a lot of hysteria, especially on WhatsApp groups, be very careful of WhatsApp groups where people said Israel's withdrawing from Gaza. Israel's not withdrawing from Gaza. What we are likely seeing is a different phase of the war, where our troops will be more around the center and northern part of the Gaza Strip and will conduct operations based on intelligence, like we saw similar with Al-Shifa Hospital, and deal with Hamas insurgents and guerrillas like that. The IDF's Chief of Staff, Herzog Halevi, said that operations in the Gaza Strip will continue. The war is far from over. And Prime Minister Netanyahu also said that Israel will be going into Rafah to dismantle the last remaining battalions of Hamas. So I think when we consume news again, we have to be very careful and make sure we read the entire message and not just bits of it. And finally, President Herzog handed Rwandan President Paul Kagame one of these yesterday. This is a disc. It says in English, "Bring them home now." And in Hebrew, it says, "Halev shelanu shavui ba'aza." Our hearts are captive in Gaza. And they certainly are. Our hearts are captive with 134 hostages. And the president was in Rwanda yesterday, in the capital Kigali, to mark 30 years since the Rwandan genocide. The president also met with international leaders to try and impress upon them the urgency and the importance of making sure our hostages are released. We don't just want to say bring them home, we want to say release our people, let them go. And also to address world leaders on the importance of combating international terrorism together. Israel's fight is not just our fight, we are fighting for you guys as well. So those are your top stories today. Don't forget you can follow our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook community is growing. If you haven't joined us, you can find us at Lotl Site. That's at LOTLSITE. We are on YouTube right here at the Israel Brief. Please like, share and subscribe. And we are on X, I keep thinking it's Twitter, at Lay of the Land 5. Guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless you all, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.